morning, welcome to CATEX TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Thursday, October 10th, 2013. If you're listening to this broadcast on the radio and wish to watch it, please go to www.catex.com. Signs of optimism in Washington, D.C. The Dow Jones is up triple digits already. There's a report from the Washington Post that House Republicans are prepared to offer a so-called clean bill, which would allow for the debt limit to be raised as well as the budget deal to be agreed to. But the kicker is that it's only going to last for 6 or 8 weeks. The 8-week interregnum apparently would give the House leadership the opportunity to quote-unquote negotiate with President Obama. Now we know how people in Athens, Greece feel as we lurch from one crisis to another. President Obama had to cancel his visit to the Philippines and Asia because of the political storm concerning the budget. He sent Secretary of State John Kerry in his stead. Kerry was supposed to stop in Manila on the way home, but he had to cancel that trip because of an incoming typhoon. Tropical storm Santi will make it impossible to stop in Manila tomorrow. According to Kerry, because of the judgment of our pilots and the airlines that with the approaching typhoon, we are going to postpone the trip I was going to make to the Philippines. Philippine President Benigno Aquino was disappointed but gracious. He said, of course, we're eager to welcome Kerry. We want to use this opportunity to further advance our alliance. The Prime Minister of Libya, Ali-Zidan, was snatched before dawn from a Tripoli hotel this morning. He lived in the hotel on the 21st floor. The abduction appeared to be in retaliation for the U.S. Special Forces raid over the weekend that seized an al-Qaeda suspect from the streets of the capital. Shortly before dawn, 150 armed men arrived at the hotel, went to the 21st floor, scuffled with the Prime Minister's guards, and took him away. Al Jazeera is reporting that the Prime Minister, in fact, has now recently been released. No confirmation yet from the Libyan government. Wall Street Journal's Leslie Schism has a good article today on tower insurance and their travails that they have now in trying to find a buyer. According to the article, a number of several private equity firms that have been approached by Tower are not interested in striking a deal. Tower recently made overtures to buyout firms such as Blackstone and Warburg Pincus in an effort to raise money, but people say now that the advances have not elicited an enthusiastic response. The day before yesterday, AM Best lowered Tower's ratings as we reported. Analysts at FRB Capital Markets say a likely outcome of that downgrade means that Tower's business would be sold to a firm that specializes in so-called runoff operations. Such firms pay claims and manage the investment portfolio that backs up the claims, but they don't sell any new policies. On Monday, of course, Tower, which had been one of the top 50 P&C insurers in the U.S., said that they had miscalculated the size of balance sheet reserves that reflect future payments to commercial policyholders, especially for workers' comp. The company said it would reserve an additional $365 million and also book a $215 million non-cash charge to write down an intangible asset known as goodwill. Aon Benfield is out with their monthly report on natural disaster effects around the world. September produced $15 billion in global economic damage. There were 2 hits of note to insured economic damage. The 2 hurricanes, Hurricane Manuel and Ingrid, that made separate landfalls in Mexico within 24 hours, apparently will result in insured losses of about $915 million. The flash flooding in Colorado, which caused about $2 billion in economic losses, will result in about $150 million in actual claims losses that insurers will have to pay. Yesterday in the Lloyd's Library at Lloyd's on Lime Street, Nephila, their co-founder Frank Majors, told an audience that alternative capital providers have a sustainable cost advantage over rated insurers in providing catastrophe cover. Major said that several key attributes of alternative capital providers' managed fund structure enable them to provide lower cost cover for peak cat risk. He said that this meant that ILS is set to become a permanent fixture as the market evolves into a volume-based, lower margin business. Frank Majors is usually right on these things, and he's been right so far. The Kenyan announced this morning that the FBI, the U.S. FBI that is, has determined that a massive fire in August that engulfed Nairobi's international airport was in fact caused by an electrical fault. The FBI reported this information to the American ambassador in Kenya, who reported it to Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday. Of course, that fire was deemed suspicious when only several weeks later the terror attack at the Westgate Mall occurred. And here's an interesting story. It's attracting a lot of attention in Africa. Nigeria's aviation minister has caused outrage by calling air crashes inevitable acts of God, as she sought to deflect criticism of her record after her country had seen the second deadly accident in 15 months. Stella Odua was speaking to journalists at the presidential villa on Monday, 3 days after 16 more people were killed in a small plane crash taking off from the capital's airport in Lagos. Last year, of course, a Dana Air flight crashed into a Lagos apartment block, killing 163 people. The minister said, "We do not pray for accidents, but it is inevitable. We do everything to ensure that we don't have accidents, but it is an act of God. We do not speculate on the cause of accidents." She later qualified her comments, saying that everyone is concerned with air safety. Nigerian newspapers and Twitter have exploded with angry responses. The former aviation minister is calling for her resignation. The newspaper Punch quoted a popular blogger saying, "If God is in charge of safety in the aviation sector, then we are duplicating roles by paying salary to a minister. When you start passing the buck to God, then the time has come to pass on your resignation letter." The belief that fatal accidents are acts of God or of malevolent spirits is common in Nigeria and in many other African countries. I have said this before, I would never get on an African carrier plane. That's the news for today. All eyes are on Washington. Stock market is optimistic. Maybe there's a reason to be. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.